Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom. Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Welcome. I'm Rabbi Benjamin Zober, and with me, of course,
Rabbi Sara Zober, and welcome.
we are so glad to welcome you here this evening in person and online for our Pride Shabbat celebration. Tomorrow, of course, is Northern Nevada Pride, so we hope that we will see many of you again for that, either for the parade or all day long as we are at our booth celebrating with everyone there. More on that later, I'm sure.
Tonight, we are going to be highlighting a few different people and a few different composers as well. All of our composers, I noticed as I was putting together the service, all of our composers are queer Jewish composers, which is really fun, with the exception of Nachum Frankel, who wrote the Bim Bam. Although nobody asked Nachum, and he unfortunately died before that kind of thing became the kind of thing you would ask somebody. So everyone, with the exception of Nachum Frankel, is a queer Jewish artist. So you will hear a lot of oldies but goodies that you didn't know were from queer Jewish artists. And we are also highlighting some of the members of Keshet Reno. Keshet Reno is our... You can make noise. It's okay. It's Shabbat. Yeah. Keshet Reno is our LGBTQ Jewish organization. It is not affiliated with the synagogue, but we are so thrilled that they are here to celebrate Pride Shabbat with us this evening. We are going to begin with a reading. The reading is actually not in your prayer books, so if you'd like to, you can just listen along.
Makor HaChaim, source of life, you have blessed each of us with your spirit. In your wisdom, you have made each of us a unique treasure. Ma'ayan Chayenu, wellspring of our lives, cause us to flow with courage, strength, and compassion to live our stories openly, proudly, and joyfully. Shekhinah Shel Ahava, presence of love, you embrace us with your love. May we embrace ourselves, our partners, our lovers, our friends, our children, our dear ones with the power of your Ahava Rabbah, your unending, boundless love.
Ruach HaShalom, spirit of peace and wholeness, open our eyes to the gifts and blessings we offer and receive from each other. Open our hearts to welcome each other fully and truly. Open our hands to embrace, to support, to lift each other. Begila, Barina, B'Shalom Uvrayut, with joy, with song, with peace, and with deep friendship.
Today on this Shabbat, as we celebrate renewal, pride, and community, let us walk together with strength, compassion, and love.
Nevarech et Ma'ayan Chayenu, Tekadesh Utsameach Otanu, Ve'et HaShabbat. We bless you, wellspring of our lives. May you fill us and our Shabbat with joy and sanctity. And together we say, Amen.
We would now like to invite Beth Kaminsky up to kindle our Sabbath lights. It is on page 2 in your prayer books.
Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, ha'chag shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thanks, Beth. We turn to page 12, and together we sing L'chu Neranana. L'chu Neranana, yai dai 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 dai, L'Adonai, yai dai 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 dai, Naria, yai dai 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 dai, Letzor Yishenu, yai dai 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 dai, Nekadma hafana v'toda v'toda, Nizmira narialo narialo, L'chu Neranana, yai dai 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 dai, L'Adonai, yai dai 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 dai, Naria, yai dai 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 dai, L'tzor Yishenu, yai dai 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 dai, Ki el gadol Adonai, Adonai, u'melech gadol kol Elohim, Elohim. L'chu Neranana, yai dai 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 dai, L'Adonai, yai dai 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 dai, Naria, yai dai 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 dai, L'tzor Yishenu, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai.
We now turn to page 20 for Lechadodi. And we will be singing verses
1, 2, 5, and 9. Sorry, Marilyn. We're sticking with the normal ones this time. I'm not really sure how to fit that 7th verse into this particular melody. So we'll be doing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And when you reach the 9th and final verse, if you are able, please rise, and you can turn to our exterior door as we bow and welcome the Sabbath bride into our midst by saying, Boi Kala, come, O bride, into our midst. Lechadodi likrat shala, Panei Shabbat nekavela. Lechadodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekavela. Lechadodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekavela. Lechadodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekavela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu Elham Yuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shemo tiferet v'litila. Lechadodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekavela. Lechadodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekavela. Likrat Shabbat lechu b'nelcha, Ki mekor habracha, Merosh mikedem nesucha, Sofa sebamachshavat tila.
Dodi לקראת עלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת עלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, כי בעורף קומי אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד עלי את נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת בלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. טוב חמונה עם סגולה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
You may be seated.
We continue on page 26 with Chatzi Kaddish. Vayitgadash Shemei Rabba.
Amen.
V'alma divrach Hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'yomechon u'chayedecho Beit Yisrael. Bagala u'bizmahan kariv v'meru. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam u'lomei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitareh v'yithalal Shemei dekudesha
Richu.
Leila min kol birchata v'shirata
Tush bechata b'nechemata, dami hiram be'alma.
v'meru.
Amen.
Continue on page 28 with the Baruch Hu. If you are able, please rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach me'olam ba'arech. HaMevorach me'olam ba'arech.
We continue with a reading that is not found in the books. As the sun sinks and the colors of the day turn, we offer a blessing for the twilight, for twilight is neither day nor night, but in between. We are all twilight people. We can never be fully labeled or defined. We are many identities and loves, many genders and none. We are in between roles, at the intersection of histories or between place and place. We are crisscrossed paths of memory and destination, streaks of light and swirled together. We are neither day nor night. We are both, neither and all. May the sacred in-between of this evening suspend our certainties, soften our judgments, and widen our vision. May this in-between light illumine our way to the God who transcends all categories and definitions. May the in-between people who have come to pray be lifted up this twilight. We cannot always define. We can always say a blessing. Blessed are you, God of all, who brings on the twilight.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Ahavat Olam can be found on the next page, page 32.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah umitzvot, chukim umishpatim, otanu limadata, otanu limadata. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shokbenu, u'kumenu nasiach lechukacha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed, ki hem chayenu, ve'orach yameinu, u'lahem negei yomam v'layla, negei yomam v'layla. Mi'ahavat va'al tasir, mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael, ohev amo Yisrael.
Hey, Noah, you want to help me do the Shema? Yeah, okay. We all turn to the Shema, which can be found on page 34 in your books. Noah just became bar mitzvah. Was that last week? 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. Noah just became bar mitzvah and did the Shema as part of his bar mitzvah. And I told him anytime that he's in the synagogue on a Friday night, he is welcome to lead it. So, Noah, you want to do it first and then everybody else will do it after you?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you come over here? That way they can hear you. You guys talking to the microphone, remember?
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Come on. Say yes, what and Adonai and Tino. What? Come on. Yes, what and Adonai and Elohim. Adonai. What and will worship toward my heart to Adonai pretend.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. We continue on the next page with the Via Hafta.
You may be seated. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi
מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. Our people came out of Egypt a mixed multitude, the spray of dividing waters, sparkling diamonds all around them. We stood together at Sinai, all of us, future, present, and past, amid the rumble of thunder and the crack of bright lightning, to enter into covenant with the one who loves us, in whose shining image we are all created over and over again. We have wandered bleak landscapes, built flimsy tents of skin and then houses of stone. We have planted orchards and vineyards, seen two temples rise and then go down in the surging flames, forcing us into exile. We have loved and lost, grieved and danced, transgressed and celebrated, hidden, suffered, thrived. And we gather here this day in the community of our people, a mixed multitude. And we sing out, "Hear, O Israel." We stand together, all of us, descendants of the single first human created on the sixth day, and of our myriad parents down through the generations, too numerous to name. We stand together, link arms, and pray. Blessed are you, God of the universe, who sanctifies us with the commandment to love ourselves and one another in all our varied ways, and blesses us with a diamond bright radiance that still ripples out from your first spoken words of creation.
Micha Mocha can be found on page 40. ונאמר כי יפרע אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
We turn to page 43 and read at the bottom of the page together. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours.
Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Yismechu can be found on the very next page.
Yismechu b'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Mekadeshei, Mekadeshei Shavi Shabbat. Kulam yizbehu, v'yitangum etu v'chashabat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi'i ratzita bo v'kinasha Shabbat. Chemdat yamim, ato karata Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Zecher l'maaseh v'reishit Shabbat. Zecher l'maaseh v'reishit Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat.
We now turn to page 46 for the Amidah. If you are able, please rise. Adonai sefatay tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu, V'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sara, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, U'mevi Gula Lifnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sara. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Melchayeh Hakol, Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. Somek noflim verofe holim. Umatir asurim. Umkayem emunato. Lishenei afar. Nichamocha al gevurot. Umido mehelav. Melech memit umechaye. Umasmiach Yeshua. B'ne'emanatan hachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechayei hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom geluch hasela. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. We continue silently to page 62. Please be seated when you are finished or when you feel ready.
Shalom Rav can be found on page 60.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amacha Tasim Leolam. 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 Ki ata umelech Adon lechu hashalom. Ki ata umelech Adon lechu hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amacha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amacha וטוב עיניך לברך את עמך ישראל. בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום.
Michael Gordon, can you please turn down the temperature like 5 to 10 degrees? I do not need to practice for the heat that we're going to be facing tomorrow morning at Pride. Yeah. And we're all going to be comfortable at Pride tomorrow.
At this time, we turn to Seder Kriyat HaTorah, our Torah service this evening, which we begin at the bottom of page 245. Happy is the one who finds wisdom, the one who gains understanding, for its value is greater than silver, its yield than fine gold. It is more precious than rubies, no treasure can match it.
It's now my pleasure to invite up, hey, Alina, would you and your friend like to help out? Carry the stuffy Torahs, come on. You too. And Morgan, if you can help me out as well. You're just opening a door. I have faith in you. I have faith in you.
Don't have that much faith.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
I left it like 2015. It's been a good
We
7
turn to
years.
page 246. And we all rise. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah. U'devar Adonai Yerushalayim. Baruch Shanatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shanatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo Gadol Adonai Iti Onaroma Shemo Yachdav Lecha Adonai Hagedula V'Hagevora V'Hatiferet V'Hanetzach V'Hahod Ki cho b'shamayim u'va'aretz, ki cho b'shamayim u'va'aretz. L'cha Adonai ha'mamlacha, v'yamid na'aseh lechol rosh. Bottom of 249. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kohan Shama, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Thank you. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol Shabbat, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol Shabbat, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. You may be seated. Yeah. So this evening, I have been saying since I got here that I would love to get congregants coming up and chanting Torah because, as I have said through the entirety of the pandemic, I get sick of the sound of my own voice. So many thanks to Marilyn Roberts, who will be coming up and chanting Torah for us this evening. She will be chanting from Parshat Pinchas. You have a blue booklet in your prayer book, probably. You'll be able to follow along and check Marilyn's Hebrew. It's right. It always is. And it's my pleasure to invite up Nathan Gordon to say the Aliyah today. So Marilyn, come on up. Ya'amod Natan ben Moshe v'ya'ira la'aliyah.
Where is it?
Yeah, there, that one. Okay, so let's roll this a bit. There we go. All right, Nathan, she's starting right there.
All right. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach le'olam ba'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach le'olam ba'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet. Wait, no, that's the wrong one. Whoops, it's been a while. I'm so sorry.
Asher b'char
Banu
banu.
mikol ha'amim natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. ובחודש השביעי, באחד לחודש, מקרא קודש, יהיה לכם, כל מלאכת עבודה לא תעשו, יום תרועה יהיה לכם. ועשיתם עולה לריח ניחוח, לאדוני פר בן בקר, אחד איל אחד, כבשים בני שנה 7 תמימים, ומנחתם סולת בלולב השמן 13 עשרונים לפר, 2 עשרונים לאיל, ויסרון אחד לכבש אחד, לשבעת הכבשים, וסריזים אחד חטאת לכפר עליכם, מלבד עולת החודש ומנחתה, ועולת התמיד ומנחתה, ונזקיהם כמשפטם, לריח ניחוח אישה לאדוני.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
I thought I was going to forget the end part so bad, and then I end up messing up the beginning.
This is the terrifying part of being up here with your rabbi and your bar mitzvah tutor. Don't either of you go anywhere. May Shaverach Avatenu V'imatenu Avraham Yitzhak V'Yaakov Sar Rivka Rachel V'Leah. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sara, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Bless both of you since you have come up to Torah for the honor of God and Torah. May you merit from the Holy One of blessing, protection, rescue from any trouble or distress, and from any illness, minor or serious. May God send blessing and success in your every endeavor, together with all Israel. And let us all say, Amen. Shkoyach. Thank you. At this time, with the Sefer Torah in our midst, we think of those in our community who are in need of healing. At this time, we especially think of the Blank family, Wendy Alderman, Kathy Bartlett, Tracy Bartlett, Laura Ann Borsoff, Marilyn Bowie, Neil Calder, Laura Cohen, Father Chuck Durante, Jeff Gingold, Stephen Gold, Marlene Harris, Harvey Higdon, Laura Jawad, Kevin Knox, Harav Miriam Yael Chaya Batsara, Tim Ober, Judy Ramos, Ray Riker, Shirley Retkovitz, Sara Batchava, Marianne Schenker, Jessica Wadatz, Bobby Wells, Usher Zalik. Of course, we are thinking of everyone affected by the coronavirus and the Jewish and other communities of the Ukraine. If there are other folks that you'd like to mention at this time, please do so either in the comments if you're online or as my hand sweeps over you.
Eli Pavolny,
Alexander Didier, Spencer Spicer.
Barbara Gonzalez, Joe Biden, and Ben Thomas. Yuritsa Springmeyer, Joseph Gonzalez.
Thank you. For all those that we have named and for those whose names remain in our hearts, our song for healing can be found on page 253 in the middle. Mi sheberach avotenu mekol habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekol habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. It's my pleasure to invite up Matt Lakoff and Bianca Grund to help with Hagba and Galila. Ya'amdu hamagbiah v'hagolelet. We all rise. Take that, Bianca.
וזאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל, על פי אדוני ביד משה. Yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai וזאת התורה ששם משה לפני בני ישראל. על פי אדוני ביד משה.
We turn to page 257.
When Torah entered the world, freedom entered it. The whole Torah exists only to establish peace.
Its highest teaching is love and kindness. What is hateful to you, do not do to any person.
That is the whole Torah, all the rest is commentary. Go and learn it. Those who study Torah are the true guardians of civilization.
Honoring one another, doing acts of kindness, and making peace. These are our highest duties. But the study of Torah is equal to them all, because it leads to them all.
Let us learn in order to teach. Let us learn in order to do. Page 256.
כי לקחתם נתתי להם תורתי אל תעזובו את חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותוריה מאושר דרכיה דרכנו וכל נתיבותיה שלום השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חודש ימינו חודש ימינו כקדם.
You may be seated. You know, my kids are constantly asking me why I write most of my sermons on the day that I give them. In almost every other place in my life, they know me to be the consummate over planner. I know what it is I am telling you for the high holidays by early August. I plan the next fiscal year's calendar in February. And this week is the perfect example of why on Fridays I don't write what I say to you in this space ahead of time. Had I approached this parsha even 2 weeks ago, I would have written something wholly inadequate for this particular Pride Shabbat. I would have used this text in such a different way. It has only been through living the fragility, joy, and sorrow of the last few weeks that I have come to see this text in a whole different light. Of course, on this Pride Shabbat, the Torah gives us just the right reminder of how fragile and beautiful life can be. 5 young girls, Mala, Milka, Hogla, Noah, and Tirzah, approach Moses to make a petition. This must have been highly unusual because they were none of them yet of marriageable age. And this is coming from a tradition that says that 18 is the perfect age for a girl to get married. So they must have been younger than that. These 5 girls approach Moses as a group. They tell him, Avinu met bamidbar, vehu lo haya betoch ha'eda hanoadim al Adonai ba'adat Korach. Ki v'chet'o met, uvanim lo hayu lo. Our father died in the wilderness. He was not one of Korach's faction who banded together against God, but he died for his own sin, and he had no sons. Mala, Milcah, Hogla, Noah, and Tirzah are building a case very carefully. Their father left Egypt and died in the desert, as all of the other Israelite elders had at this point. However, he seems to have been a decent man. He was not one of Korach's band who helped to rebel against Moses, and he had not been involved in any of the other more recent plagues that just happened last week involving idol worship. The girls say that he was a man who died for his own sins, meaning for his own reasons. And he had 5 girls and no sons to pass his property on to. So now we know what to expect at this point, right? A census has just been taken and the land is being divided up amongst the men of the clans. These 5 girls and their mother are likely very worried. With no men obligated to care for them in our new promised land, what will they do? How will they even marry or feed or take care of themselves? They go on and say to Moses, Lama yigara shema vinu mitoch mishpachto, ki ein lo ben. Tna lanu achuzah betoch achei avinu. They say, why do you withdraw our father's name from his clan for having had no son? Give us his holding amongst our father's kinsmen. One can only imagine how shocked Moses must have been at the chutzpah of these 5 girls. Here they are, none of them old enough to be married, accusing Moses himself of erasing their father's name merely because he didn't have a son. But not only that, these 5 young girls are demanding that they be the ones given the land that would have gone to their father had he lived. Moses, unable to figure this one out himself, goes to God and presents their petition to God. God's response was to agree that the plea of Zelophehad's daughters is just. He says, you should give them a hereditary holding amongst their father's kinsmen. You should transfer their father's share to them. Not only that, God says, but this is the rule from now on for anyone who doesn't have a son. These 5 young girls stood in the midst of the patriarchy into which they were born, disenfranchised and undervalued, and demanded their rights to be seen as people, just as the brother they never had would have always been seen as a person. So too do we, queer Jew or ally, stand among all who are disenfranchised and demand from our leaders that we be treated the same as anyone. We demand the same rights, the rights to marry those we love, with all the privileges that were denied to Jim Obergefell when the state of Ohio refused to recognize his legal marriage to his partner, John Arthur, on John's death certificate. We stand in front of our leaders and we demand that trans children be treated as children who play sports and who use bathrooms. And we further demand that they be allowed to explore their identity or their identity in safety. We demand that all people, regardless of their gender identity or their sexual orientation, of their race, disability, or creed, we demand that all of us be given access to affordable, quality, and life-affirming health care throughout our lives. Hillel the elder quantifies our demands best. Da'alach sne lechavrach, la ta'aved. What is hateful to you, don't do to another. Zohi kol haTorah kulah. That is the Torah in its entirety. Ve'idach perushah hu zil gemor. All the rest is interpretation, so go and study it. We demand nothing more and nothing less than this, the same thing the Israelite girls Noah, Hogla, Tirzah, Mala, and Milcah demanded. And were we to stop here, my sermon might be complete, but the Torah's lesson would not. After all, this weekend, this Pride Shabbat, while we march joyfully, we are watching over 300 anti-trans bills pass through American legislative bodies. A flood of paperwork meant to drown any person who is gender nonconforming. This Pride Shabbat, we will celebrate one another, even though we know that Obergefell versus Hodges, the ruling that stated that same-sex marriages must be given the same treatment and rights as opposite-sex ones, even though we know it is in jeopardy. This Pride Shabbat, we are mourning after a record year of murders of transgender people in hate crimes, and the realization that we are on our way to break that record for a second year in a row. This Pride Shabbat, we are being asked to embody that great Jewish truth as it's stated in the Zohar. Weeping is lodged on one side of my heart, and joy is lodged in the other. Similarly, in the Torah, the book of Numbers moves on past this legislation that we read, the legislation that granted these girls this amazing right. And the Torah keeps building this new society. It builds holidays and seasons, sacred and civil structures, which is the section that Marilyn read for us tonight. And next week, the society will be built and built and built more until we reach the last chapter of the book of Numbers, chapter 36. And after all the joy of this building, we will watch in dismay what happens to Milcah and Tirzah, Hogla and Mala and Noah. So at the end of this book, the patriarchs of Zelophehad's clan approach Moses, arguing that giving property to these girls would throw everything into chaos. They say, what happens if they marry outside the clan and then the land passes into someone else's hands? It would be a mess to calculate what property goes where during the Jubilee, and then fights would ensue. Surely, they argue, God doesn't want a world of chaos and fighting. These arguments of ensuing chaos and the what-ifs describing the loss of tiny amounts of privilege sound familiar to us. After all, this is the whining of the privileged Israelite man. How dare an orphaned girl get any small sense of safety when left to fend for herself? And so the book of Numbers gallingly ends with God agreeing to a different rule, that the girls can hold property, but only if they marry within their clan, at which point that property becomes that of her husband. The text tells us that Hogla, Milcah, Tirzah, Noah, and Mala, quote, did as God commanded Moses. Stripped of their rights not only to own property, stripped of their ability to even comment on this change, stripped of their ability to marry even outside of their clan now. The book of Numbers ends abruptly with their silence. Case closed. Patriarchy preserved. It is so often the case that when we are desperately fighting for our rights and when we win them, there are always people in the wings, sometimes in our own families, who resent us for taking even a tiny portion of what they see as their exclusive domain or right to hold. They are willing to further disenfranchise those of us who already enjoy less, and to strip us not of privileges, but of our basic equality, in order to preserve their vision of an orderly world. But unlike Noah, Hogla, Mala, Tirza, and Milka, the story doesn't end there for us. We do not have to be defined by the rules or the silence that the patriarchy tries to impose upon us. Unlike them, we don't have to lose our identity and our individuality. It is interesting that these girls are called in the end by scholars and feminists alike the Benot Zelofchad, the daughters of Zelofchad, their father. When the Torah itself reminds us repeatedly that these 5 young girls have names. While we mourn for the loss of rights these 5 young women have suffered, we understand also that we don't have to accept the same fate with silence or obedience. We can continue to petition our patriarchy and to demand the rights that are ours, and demand that tradition never be overturned unless it protects and empowers more people rather than less. But all of that work and that fight for justice is going to have to wait for some other week. We have a task in front of us this weekend that is equally holy, and that is to participate fully in joy and in celebration of who we are as a people, of the fights that we've won, of the folks that we've saved, and the love that we are enjoying right now. And we do so knowing full well that in joy there is also sorrow, but that in the sorrow there is always more joy. That is what it means to be alive and to live your life well. And on this Shabbat and every Shabbat, God reminds us that we are meant to live well. Shabbat Shalom.
We turn to the bottom of page 282, and if you're able, please rise for Aleinu, and I would love and am honored to call up Leah and Lavelle to open our ark doors. Aleinu leshabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כבאי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. One day the words coming out will sound strange. Oppression based on gender or orientation will be a memory. History to honor and remember. The pain of hiding, repressing, denying, honoring the triumphs of those who fought to be free. Remembering the violence and vitriol that cost lives. when love wins at long last. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your neighbor as yourself will be as natural as breathing. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. One day love will win every heart. Love will win every soul. Fear will vanish like smoke. And the tenderness for all will fill our hearts. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love wins. In the end, love wins. Man for man, woman for woman, woman for man, man for women, all genders, all orientations, all true expressions of heart. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Let this come speedily in our day, a tribute to the many and the diverse gifts from heaven, a tribute to love deep and true, each of us for one another. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Page 287. V'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Thank you. You may be seated. Before we begin Kaddish, I would like to invite up Rabbi Myra Seufer.
So this is the third night of Shiva since the death this week of Jeff Blank. And of course, because it's Shabbat, we are here in this Temple Sinai sanctuary. So it seemed only fitting that before we say Kaddish and remember Jeff during this first week of mourning, that we lift up a memory of what he meant and all he did for Temple Sinai. During my tenure here as the rabbi, Jeff was the whole family was super involved in the synagogue. Jeff was on the board of directors for a number of years. I can't even remember how many years. And at the same time that he was on the board of directors, he was teaching Hebrew school. Anyone who's heard the words in memory of Jeff this week knows that he was an amazing master of many languages, including Hebrew. And so he taught in the Hebrew school and he just loved it. And at the same time, he served on the board. Now, anybody who's been a part of a congregation, especially a small one, will know that after you serve on the board for a number of years, inevitably, they make you president. And in fact, that happened. And I had to check the plaques on the wall. It was Jeffrey was president of Temple Sinai from 2003 to 2005. He was working. He had a job as an attorney. He had a family, his wife Sharon and his two sons, Max and Noah. And he continued, as he served as the president, to teach in the Hebrew school because he loved the Hebrew school. Well, the result of that is anyone who's ever served on a synagogue board, especially if you've served in a small congregation, and I might note, Michael, as bad as you think you have it, we had no office staff at that point in time as well. So not only was Jeffrey holding down his job, he had a family, he was teaching Hebrew, he was the temple president. He and I were always answering the phone, opening the mail, fixing the toilets, all that kind of stuff as well. It got to be just really ridiculous. It was clear that he was just frazzled. He was spread far too thin. I don't think his family saw him during that time at all. I don't know how, because he was always here. And finally I said to him, Jeff, you just can't do this. You just can't keep doing this. He knew I was right, but he so loved teaching Hebrew that he didn't want to let it go. I said to him, I probably can't get a teacher as good as you. I can get another Hebrew teacher, but I can't get a president. So I fired him. Fortunately, it wasn't a hard fire because he knew I was right. He reluctantly gave up teaching Hebrew for the time that he was the president of the congregation. Immediately when his term as president ended, he went back to teaching Hebrew. So that barely covers all the ways that Jeff served Temple Sinai and the legacy that he left us. But tonight I lift up Jeffrey Blank. His deep commitment to Judaism had its embodiment here for the benefit of so many of us at Temple Sinai. And that is an important part, certainly to me, of his legacy. Zichrono livracha.
Thank you. In addition to Jeff Blank, at this time we are also remembering Richie Zorn, Al Grossman, Carl Weinberg, David Stucker, Terry Gregory, Grayson Corbett, Joan F. Nutkin, Andrew Venuti, Gerald Kaufman, Goldie Brewstein, Lucille Alexander, Stanley Browdy, Edna Bailey, Jenna Deborah Denise Cassell, Will Spiegelman, Leonard Fusari, James Holly, Ken Hecht, Roberta Small-Reich, Edward Gingold, Cookie Javinsky. And we're commemorating the yard sites of Sherman Bruckner, Aaron Harrison, Molly Friedman, Aaron Abraham Isaac, Harold Saper, Betty Stillpass, Joseph Slater, Phyllis Kaplan, Mark Snowman, Abraham Pomerantz, Chuck Federico, and Nancy Simkin. If there are other names that you would like to add to this list, please do so as my hand sweeps over you. Zichrono livracha. May their memories be a blessing to us always. You can find Kadisha Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish, on page 294. If it is your custom, please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba. Be'alma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh. B'chayachon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudesha barichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all who mourn. And together we say, Amen. You may be seated. It is my pleasure to invite up, are we doing Tova first or Laura first? Let's do Laura and then Tova. Good evening. If we haven't met, I am Laura Smith. I am
on the executive board, and so I am up here to do announcements tonight, but we will also call up Tova McGilvray to talk about tomorrow's events, which I know are topmost of mind. Before she gets started, as Rabbi Sara mentioned, we are looking to have more congregates chant Torah each week. If you are interested, you can contact either of the rabbis, Marilyn Roberts, or myself, and we will get you all hooked up with everything you need to do that successfully. I am not a person with any language skills, and they can get me to do it, so they can get you to do it, I promise. If you are interested in joining our live stream tech team for Shabbat to give Michael and Tova a break from that, please also let Michael Gordon know. It's, as I understand, fairly manageable and very needed. Our Oneg tonight is hosted by Keshet. Thank you, thank you. If you would like to host a future Oneg, please sign up in person on the old-fashioned sign-up board in the temple kitchen. We do still have those, or online at signareno.org, and look for the Oneg button. If you are not with us in person tonight, you can, of course, join the Yisma Zoom hosted by Laura and Chris Ashkin. It is always delightful. Tomorrow, Tova will talk through all of the events, but because it is Pride Shabbat, there is no Torah study this week. You can join next week, July 30th. I can't believe it's almost August, at 10 a.m. And the information for that is also on the website. Perhaps most importantly, please do join for tomorrow's Shiva service at 8 p.m. And then the following days, if you need the address, and there are of times and dates and answers on our little back table there. They could use some love. Make it all use. Moving forward, next Tuesday, August 2nd, begins High Holiday Choir practice. If you missed not getting to be in the choir the last 2 years, please do contact Rabbi Sara for details. Those are all Tuesday nights. Yes, at some evening time.
That's a great question.
At some great evening time. Email Rabbi Sara about it. Fantastic. And then not next Friday, but the Friday after that, please join for Tot Shabbat service at 5:30. Yeah, that's all my stuff. We're really looking forward to tomorrow, though. Tomorrow morning for the parade and booth, and Tova McGilvray is going to come tell us all about it.
Thank you.
What a fabulous turnout for our Pride Shabbat. Thank you all so much for being here. Fantastic. And thank you, Keshet, for hosting the Oneg. And I'm so excited that Keshet is going to be sharing our booth with us tomorrow to really give this fantastic new UNR group a place at Pride, because you deserve it. So festivities for Pride Northern Nevada tomorrow. So this is the marching in the parade and a booth that Temple Sinai will be hosting at the festival. This is like our 5th year having our own dedicated space at Pride. So very excited. We will, of course, be neighbored with our longtime friends at NICE. That's Nevada Interfaith Coalition for Equality. Did I get that? So it's a wonderful chance to meet other interfaith partners who also support human rights. But the details for tomorrow. So starting with the parade, for which everybody is welcome. We have plenty of space for more people to join us for marching. We will meet between 9 and 9:30 to prepare for the march. Our staging area, you would enter from 6th Street from Center Street. So picture downtown Reno, the parade route. You're gonna all the way north, the intersection of 6th Street and Center Street. That is our gate entrance for the yellow zone. We are the yellow zone. So they are asking that you enter from the Center Street side of things. We will be somewhere in that block. I hope that you get to meet friendly faces. If you're interested, if you're going to be joining us for Pride tomorrow, the festival, or marching, wonderful. So as you go to the Oneg, you can meet these people. As you show up tomorrow on the block, you can look for those people. All right. I would love to. I have a map that I can show people later tonight if you're still unclear of where that parade staging area is. So we're going to meet between 9 and 9:30. The parade march itself will begin at 10 o'clock. We will all march behind our Temple Sinai Pride banner and wave like the queens that we are. The dress is festive, fun. Please don't get heat stroke. Fabulous hats. Let's think big, fabulous hats. Okay, that's the theme for tomorrow. And then the festival. So we also have a booth at the Pride Festival. I would love for you to, again, let's take a mental trip to Wingfield Park. You're going to turn west facing the beautiful mountains. And on that little island, walk as far to the edge as you can before you fall in the river. And that's where we are. So we're on that extreme western corner of Wingfield Park Island. We will have our booth there with a canopy. We'll have a cooler with water. Certainly anybody who felt motivated to bring snacks for the volunteers. We love that. We love snacks. Thank you, Rabbi Myra is going to be bringing some. Cupcakes will be there early. And then our sign-up sheet for the shifts to staff the booth has been live for some time. At this point, I would say that between the rabbis and our volunteers in Keshet, we're pretty well staffed. There are actually a couple time slots where I'm curious if we're going to have enough chairs. But we would love to see you. And if we find ourselves to be a little bit crowded, that just means that you maybe get a chance to go out and meet the people and enjoy the festival a little bit. The setup for the tent, if you are somebody who is an early bird, rabbis and I will be there in the 7 o'clock hour doing some setup. The tear down, if you're planning on being there at the later end of the festival, will be at the 6 o'clock time. Your help or encouragement is delightful at both ends of the festival. And otherwise, we will see you throughout. If you have any questions, I will be at the Oneg. Please feel free to tackle me and we can work out any details. Parking, of course, is always very scarce. So if you meet a friend where you're coming from a similar area, perhaps carpool. Thank you so much. Again, any questions? I'll see you at the Oneg and I'll see you all tomorrow for Pride. Happy Pride. Shabbat Shalom.
Our closing song this evening is Adon Olam, which can be found on page 361. Not yet.
Adon Olam Hashem Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Niyet Nasa B'chepso Kol Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kiklot HaKol Levado Yimloch Torah Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Hova Ve'hu Ye'amet Tifara Adon Olam Hashem Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa B'chepso Kol Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kiklot HaKol Levado Yimloch Torah Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Hova Ve'hu Ye'amet Tifara Ve'hu Echad Ve'en Sheni Laham Shilo Lahachzira V'li Reshit V'li Tachlit V'lo Ha'oz V'ha'Mitzra Ve'hu Eli V'chai Go'ali V'tzur Hevli V'yetzara Ve'hu Nisi U'manusli V'natkosi V'yom Mekra Ve'hu Echad Ve'en Sheni Laham Shilo Lahachzira V'li Reshit V'li Tachlit V'lo Ha'oz V'ha'Mitzra Ve'hu Eli V'chai Go'ali V'tzur Hevli V'yetzara Ve'hu Nisi U'manusli V'natkosi V'yom Mekra Yado Hafkid Ruchi V'yeti Shan Ve'ayira Ve'im Ruchi Geviati Adonai li velo ira. Biado afid ruchi. Bi'eti shan ve'ayira. V'im ruchi gebiati. Adonai li velo ira. Adon olam Hashem olam. Keterem hu yitzir nibra. Li'et nasa b'chefsoto. Azai melech shemo nikra. Adon olam Hashem olam. Keterem hu yitzir nibra. Li'et nasa b'chefsoto. Azai melech shemo nikra.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please join us either at the Yisma Zoom if you're online or in the social hall if you are here in person.